What's going on YouTube? Omar, aka Tebow, back with you again. Today, I want to do my very first collection close-up. And what better car to start with than my Hornet? As you guys know, I absolutely adore this car. The Tamiya Hornet was my very first RC car that I ever got. And I chronicled that in a video. And I suppose what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put a link to that video if you're curious about my history with the Hornet, and I'll link it up there. Let's talk about the Hornet, and specifically this one. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about the history of the Hornet. The Tamiya Hornet came out in October of 1984. It came out 5 months after the release of the Grasshopper, which had preceded this. The biggest difference going with the Hornet from the Grasshopper is the fact that it came with a polycarbonate body instead of the ABS plastic body that the Grasshopper comes with, and a 540 motor instead of the 380 motor. This was, in my opinion, one of the top 10 Tamiyas in the first 100. Again, in my opinion, other people might argue that it doesn't belong there, but I believe it does. Henceforth, they re-released this vehicle in 2005, which this is a re-release that we're looking at. Between the original and the re-release, there were some differences. Primarily, the biggest items of note is that the re-release no longer comes with a mechanical speed controller that the original had. There are a few changes in terms of some of the plastic pieces, some of the layout of the chassis, and finally the biggest one, the one that people gripe about the most, is the fact that, you know, the sponsor stickers that you see on there, like this Pro Gear, Joker Custom Wheels, they're not the actual sponsor stickers that the original Hornet had, which is a shame, but I understand. I mean, Tamiya doesn't have to pay those licensing fees for it. This buggy was a huge hit for Tamiya. At the time that it came out, it was relatively inexpensive. It was a fantastic kit for a first-time RC lover to go with. It had, as I mentioned, a little bit increased speed over its brother, the Grasshopper, which had preceded it 5 months previously in 1984. Since then, this buggy has had so many iterations. You have your classic Hornet. They've had a black metallic special. They've had the Supreme version. They've had the Jun Watanabe version. I'm sure there are other versions that I'm forgetting about, but you know, Tamiya has made a lot of this lovely little buggy. As far as the RC itself goes, it's not the greatest performer. Anybody who's ever driven one of these guys knows that, especially by today's standards, it doesn't hang. But there's a certain charm to this buggy in terms of the way that it runs. It is very unique, this and the Grasshopper, in terms of how they run. They hop. The suspension on this thing is not the best. Speaking of that, let's go over some of the features of this buggy. So this buggy does have a single solid rear axle with probably one of the worst designs as far as its suspension goes. So many people out there will do a mod where the little swing arm that holds the end of the suspension piece here to hold it down. It's meant out of the factory. You can see that it moves up and down in those slots, and it has these two little springs in there. And what that effectively does is that when the buggy is running, it just really stops that rear suspension from working. A lot of people will do the fishing line quick mod where they tighten it down so that that one piece doesn't move up and down. It's just a solid swing area for that rear suspension to be able to go up and down without it getting all wonky from the side to side action or getting hung up and not having the proper suspension characteristics that it should have. If you're curious in doing those kind of mods on one of these buggies, my buddy Steve Shenlonko, I know on his channel he has a video on how to mod that. But getting back into this buggy, two-wheel drive off-road buggy. Again, we have the solid rear axle on the back, dual oil-filled shocks on the back. On the front, we have independent front suspension on A-arms, and it's really just a spring. This buggy is typical of the early Tamiya designs. It has horrible bump steer characteristics. I mean, take a look at that. That is just, that is not what you want your tires to do when your suspension is working. But therein is the charm of this lovely little buggy. It is super light in today's world with lipos and everything on a 2S lipo. I mean, you can go out there and run this thing depending on the size of your lipo that you can get to fit in there. Typically somewhere around a 3,000 milliamp hour pack. I mean, you can run for a good 45 minutes, almost an hour with this guy, which is a far cry from back in the day when you had to have a 7.2 volt Tamiya hump pack. And I remember that with the old chargers that we had, it would take roughly 5 hours to charge that pack, and you would get about 7 minutes of runtime, and then you'd have to go and charge that pack up for another 5 hours. Luckily, you know, that technology progressed, and then we started getting quick chargers that made it a lot faster. So, you know, 15, 20-minute quick charge time on those old packs so that you could go out and get your 5 minutes of runtime. As far as the rest of it, it's really pretty simple. It's got a differential, a gear differential in there, and 540 motor, as I mentioned, steering servo. The re-releases come with one of the TBU 105BK speed controllers, just a very basic speed controller, more than you need to run that 540 on there, and they do a great job. If we take this beautiful body off, it's a very simple tub chassis that we have in there. One of my favorite features are the Nerf bars on this buggy, which are fantastic. Everything else, just big plastic tub, very simple layout, just a really fun little buggy to drive around. I have to say, as I was talking about the driving characteristics of these guys, they bounce. I mean, the suspension, it's there, doesn't really do anything, and anybody who's driven one of these guys knows that they have a tendency to hop quite a bit when you're running them. And I feel that that is part of the charm of this vehicle. Beyond that, I have to say that this body design is absolutely, let me put it back on, absolutely one of the most beautiful body designs that Tamiya has done, in my opinion. The color choice for it, the black with the yellow and the 2 grades of orange, red highlights on the stickers there. Just absolutely stunning if you do this guy in box art. And even if you don't do in box art, I've seen so many variations of this guy that look fantastic. As far as the build goes on these, they're quick. I could honestly build one of these in about an hour. As long as I lay the parts out in front of me, just boom, 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 I can get this thing done in an hour. Whereas putting the stickers on this body, I mean, that's probably a good 2-hour job if you're going to do a good job on it. The hardest part of building these guys are 2 things, and anybody who's built one of these knows. Number one, getting the sticker positioning and getting that all correct on there. There are so many little, I'll try and show you, like on the sides. All these stickers, these lines, are multiple sections, and you have to be sure that you just line it up just right. The one on mine, there's one spot that just bothers me, and that is right behind where the little hole for the aerial normally would be. But of course, I run a 2.4 gigahertz receiver, so I don't need an antenna sticking out of here. But you can faintly see, I don't know if you guys are catching it, but you can faintly see the little line. The other thing that's pretty striking about this buggy is that it is one of the buggies in a long line of the Tamiya buggies that they named after animals or insects, which really was a huge deal for them. I think it really brought a lot of character to each one of these RC vehicles that Tamiya had. Of course, you have like the Grasshopper, the Hornet, the Frog, the Fox. It was really popular, and I think to this day, it still stands as being a very popular thing. I remember as a kid, one of the things that always drew me to it was the little picture of the Hornet. It made me love it, which, Hornets in real life, they're the jerks of the flying bee kingdom. I see a real Hornet and I want to kill it. I see one of these guys and, I instantly have a smile on my face and I'm happy to see it. The other thing that's fantastic about these old buggies, and something that Tamiya has done and continues to do to this day, is that in a long tradition of putting a slogan on the wing. And of course with the Hornet, anytime baby. This has to be my second favorite slogan. My first favorite being nuts is neat. I don't know, that one just always cracks me up, puts a smile on my face. Good old Avanti. But the Hornet, anytime baby. And that's the thing with this little RC. They are so durable. You can go out and punish these guys. Just run it and jump it. Really bash them. And they have a tendency to really hold up. In all the years of running Hornets that I've had, I don't think I've ever really broken any of them except for my very first one. But there are a couple pieces on this guy that do suffer damage, and primarily that is the wing. If you roll this thing enough times, that wing is going to rip out from those screw mounts. That polycarbonate is just not going to hold. So it's very common if you're out with your buddies who have a Basher Hornet that you'll see that they don't have a wing on there just because they've ripped the wing out. And then the second item, something that I have not lost, but the buggy does have two lights that go here. I keep those lights off because this is a runner. I think they look absolutely fantastic, but those lights have a tendency to be ripped out from the shell as well. And despite all the years, like this particular one, I think I got this one in 2006. All the running, this is the original body on it. I go out, I jump it. You can see from the scratches on there and on the wing that, it's rolled over quite a bit, but it is in surprisingly phenomenal shape. Ever since, 2006 and all the running that I've done to it, I run it on dirt. I never run it on pavement, which is why these pin spikes are still in very good shape on it. But this guy is really, really held up. Getting back to the second part of the hardest item about building this is these pin spikes. Anybody who's put these together knows that until you figure out exactly how to get the rim centered inside, punch it in, it can be a bit of a hassle. I will tell you, when I was 12 years old and I got that very first Hornet, I got so frustrated and my knuckles were bleeding, my little 12-year-old knuckles, from trying to mount those tires onto those rims. But over the years, I've done so many of them that I actually have a technique, and I found it pretty simple. Basically all you have to do is, once you have the rim together, pop it in sideways, and it's a twisting motion. You can just get them to pop right into the wheels. But that being said, this guy here, as I said, I did pick up in 2006. I do have a John Watanabe. I do have a black edition. I had two of the original ones. The first one that I got when I was 12. That one, again, is the only one that I ever broke. And I broke the chassis right here where the screws go in. That was a result of multiple launches off of a quarter pipe we had in my neighborhood. My buddies and I, being dumb, almost teenagers, were having a big air competition to see who could jump their RC car the highest into the air, and I got pretty dang high with it. Beyond that, I don't know what more I can say about this. I absolutely love this buggy. Not a great performer, but it's always one that whenever I take it out and run it. It is just so much fun. Always puts a smile on my face. And I just wanted to start my collection showcase videos with good old trusty Hornet. That's going to do it for this quick video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you like this series. I'm planning on doing this and showcasing a lot more of my RC cars because honestly, I have quite a few RC cars that I don't even have made a video with. So from time to time, I'm going to do these showcase videos and I'll bring out the car and I'll talk about them. Maybe, you know, depending on if there's something about the history that we can go by, I'll cover the history and whatnot, but just show you guys what's in my collection. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to my channel, leave a like, and hit that notification bell so that you're notified whenever I put out another video. I'll catch you guys later.